Most cults in Skyrim scream their presence. The Dark Brotherhood carves assassinations into the walls of Skyrim's history. The Vigilance of Stendarr broadcast their mission from every shrine and every ruin. The Daedric princes appear in dreams, in haunted artifacts, and in the mouths of madmen. But then there's the Mythic Dawn, a name once feared across the Empire, a group whose leader slit a god's throat and opened the gates of oblivion. Their history is burned into the towers. Their symbol, rising sun, black and red, is still known to the scholars of Tamriel. And yet, in Skyrim, they feel forgotten, half alive. An echo of something that once mattered. But even more so now, they're just a whisper in a cave. And the most unnerving part is, they're still waiting. To understand how strange their presence is in Skyrim, you have to remember what they did. The Mythic Dawn wasn't just a cult. They were responsible for the assassination of Uriel Septim VII, the Oblivion Crisis, and the literal destruction of cities. Their Daedric lord walked the mortal world, and yet they were still defeated. Their leader, Mankar, was killed. The gates were sealed, their future vanished. So when Skyrim introduced them again, through books, ruins, and one especially eerie quest, you expect something bigger, more coordinated and more dangerous. But what you find is quieter, smaller. A couple of worshippers in a cave, huddled around a fire, cling to prophecy. It's not ambition anymore, it's desperation. You meet Silas in Dawnstar. He runs a museum, or rather, he wants to. It's called the Mythic Dawn Museum, and it's not well loved. Guards warn you off, citizens avoid him. He's not dangerous, but he's just off. Inside, he shows you relics, robes, books, a Daedric dagger. He's collected everything he could from the ashes of a forgotten cult. He speaks with reverence, but also with something close to loneliness. He's not surrounded by followers, he's surrounded by silence. He's the only one at the museum. At a museum no one visits. Worships for a god who never gave him a voice. This isn't the start of a revolution. It's a man building a shrine to memory. The quest Silas gives you is called Pieces of the Past. Your goal? Recover the 3 parts of Mehrunes' razor, a legendary Daedric weapon shattered after the crisis. This sounds like the beginning of something grand. But each piece you retrieve reveals something unexpected. The first is in the hands of a man who wants nothing to do with the cult. The second belongs to a paranoid noble who doesn't understand what he's holding. The third is guarded by a Hagraven cult who see it as just another tool of power. No one reveres the razor anymore. No one remembers why it mattered. Each step you take confirms the same thing. The Mythic Dawn didn't fade into shadows. They crumbled into irrelevance. Once you gather the pieces, Silas asks you to meet at the shrine, a stone altar hidden in the Mountain of the Pale. This shrine is one of the loneliest places in the game. Wind lashes at you, snow mutes every footstep. There are no pilgrims, no sign of recent life, just frozen stone and a cold promise. And when you arrive, Dagon speaks. For the first time in centuries, the Prince of Destruction addresses a mortal. He asks you to kill Silas, to prove your worth, and to earn the razor's full power. You can choose, but either way, the moment is telling. Dagon doesn't care about the Mythic Dawn anymore. He doesn't thank Silas, he doesn't restore the cult, he only wants blood. And once he gets it, the mountain is silent again. If you choose to spare Silas, the shrine remains lifeless. Dagon falls silent, the razor stays broken. If you kill him, the shrine activates. Demora guardians emerge, you fight, you win, you claim the blade. But there's no fanfare, no new followers, no secret rooms or quests or lore. You're left alone on the mountaintop, razor in hand, a Daedric weapon with no cult behind it. Just a dagger, just a name, and just an echo of fire in a frozen land. The Mythic Dawn does exist elsewhere in Skyrim, but only barely. In books, in journals, in footnotes. You can find the commentaries, you can read his apocalyptic rhetoric, his promises of paradise through destruction, but it doesn't inspire you. It doesn't threaten, it reads like a scripture from a forgotten god. Even the vigilance of Stendar, who monitor Daedric cults, barely mention the Mythic Dawn. Because in a world of vampires, dragons, and cannibals, the Mythic Dawn just don't really matter anymore. Again, there are no Mythic Dawn agents in cities, no new cells forming in caves, no secret notes pointing to a grand design. Compare that to the Dark Brotherhood, who rebuild from ruins. Even minor cults, like the Afflicted, have dungeons, purpose, and identity. But the Mythic Dawn, well, they're not growing, they're not hiding, they're just fading. Even in the Elder Scrolls Online, which takes place before Skyrim, they're presented as broken, desperate zealots clinging to an ideal that even Dagon seems to have abandoned. And that's what makes them so haunting. Not because they're evil, but because they're forgotten evil. The kind that doesn't end with a bang, but just a slow, pitiful ember. So why are they here at all? Why resurrect a cult only to show its decay? Maybe that's the point. The Mythic Dawn isn't here to terrify you. They're here to remind you that some ideologies don't die in fire. They die in failure, in fading purpose, in cold shrines and unvisited museums. Their presence in Skyrim isn't a threat, it's a ghost. And in a game so obsessed with legacy, with prophecy, and with power, the Mythic Dawn might just be the best warning of all, that not every story can get a second chapter. There's something quietly unsettling about how often the Mythic Dawn symbol still shows up in Skyrim, however. You'll find it burned into old banners, engraved in books, worn on amulets that have no magical use, no stats, and just presence. You can't interact with it, can't use it, it's just there. The rising sun over a bloody horizon, a mark of the Fourth Era's most infamous cult, still visible 2 centuries after its fall, almost like a scar that can't even heal. What's disturbing isn't that it remains, it's that no one talks about it. NPCs don't recognise it, guards don't react. Even Silas, who surrounds himself with the remnants of the cult, never truly explains what the symbol means. It's one of the only visual motives in Skyrim that has such a deep history, but zero in-game explanation, no codex, no glossary entry, no loading screen tips. It's just a glyph tied to apocalypse, left hanging in caves and museums as if it's no different than a moth wing or a Dwemer gear. And that silence, well, it's deafening, because it reminds you that some horrors don't end in fire, they fade. They become decoration, forgotten relics of people who once thought they could reshape the world with daggers and dreams, but ultimately couldn't. And now it's just reduced to symbols that just sit there watching and watching over and over again. The razor is one of the strongest weapons in Skyrim. It has a chance to kill instantly, no matter the target. It's powerful, but it's not symbolic anymore. There's no ritual attached to its use, no reputation. It's just a weapon you got from a dead man's obsession. And that's the perfect metaphor for the Mythic Dawn in Skyrim. A cult that once shook the world, reduced to a side quest with an optional reward. No purpose, no legacy, just a name, just a relic, and just a whisper in the snow. Skyrim is full of groups trying to be remembered. The Stormcloaks fight for history, the Thieves Guild fight for relevance, the College of Winterhold fights for prestige, but the Mythic Dawn, they're not fighting anymore. They're waiting for Dagon to speak again, for Cameron's paradise to return, for the world to burn, but the world just moved on. And maybe that's the saddest thing of all. Not that they failed, not that they were evil, but that they waited, and no one was watching at all.